Hey guys, so today bringing you another video and welcome to Patch Note Breakdown. This is for 25.04. Oh! Have they abandoned the naming system already? Oh my god, I think they've abandoned it. Remember, this is supposed to be like S1 point something. I think they've abandoned the naming system already because nobody is calling it Season 1. That's so funny. Oh my god. But yeah, we'll do our best to get through the patch note. Hopefully solo queue is going good for you all. But let's see what I do know finally the time is coming that tanks are finally being nerfed. So lock in, it's the last patch of Season 1 Act 1. Again, no one's calling it Season 1. Have they said anything about... No, they've not said anything about the naming thing, but that's quite funny. So the highlights, we're getting champion nerfs to Hwei, Kalista, Kog'Maw, Lulu, and Warwick finally. Unfortunately, the Garen ones have been wiped away. And then we've got... And it's also worth knowing... Ooh. So I thought, oh, maybe they just missed the S1 as in Season 1 from this. No, in their, like, actual thing that they've made, it's not here as well. I think they've abandoned that naming system. We got buffs to Ashe, Ekko, Gangplank, Jayce, Nautilus, Sion, Teemo, and Yasuo. We're getting adjustments to Diana, Elise, and Mel. System changes to Abyssal Mask, tank item, Fumble Winter, tank item, Heartsteel, tank item, Infinity Edge, Merc Treads, tank boots, Plated Steel Camps, tank boots, the Roaming Souls, and an Unending Despair tank item. We're getting new skins, which is about Justice, Master Justice Lucian, Senna, Yone, and a new, I think, stupid gacha skin on Zed. Patch naming. Oh, here we go. They're actually saying something. So we initially went with 25.S1.1 with the hopes of tying patches more closely to seasons. And after a couple of patches, we've realized it's not the easiest thing to communicate and wasn't really hitting the mark. Yeah, no. So it's not a thing to easily communicate. Nobody is calling it Season 1. It's that simple. That's the thing that they probably should have said here. Nobody is calling it Season 1. It is not Season 1. It is... Well, most old League of Legends players would call this, I think, Season 15, because it's the 15th season. But some people will be calling it Season 2025, as in the year. Nobody was calling it Season 1. So this patch is 25.4, so the fourth patch of 2025. And the last patch will be 25.24. Then come January 2026, it will be 26.1. So yeah, basically... The year is the starting thing, and then it's just whatever patch it is. So that's good. Honor revamp. Whoa, hello. As of this patch, the honor system has been revamped to better reflect how players interact with one another. Instead of steadily progressing over a season, unless you're penalized, your honor now updates regularly based on your recent behavior. Shouldn't have always been like that? Your honor, blah, blah, blah. Our goal with these changes was to make honor about how you show up and be positive impact on your teammates, not just how many games you've played. True. As always, we want this system to create a safer, more positive environment for everyone in the community, and we believe these changes will help. So it's the only thing I will say. So yeah, they're just saying like it's changing, blah 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 blah. The honor system is okay, but the incentive for some people is reward, right? The problem is the rewards suck. So the reason why the rewards suck, there's only a limited number of skins that are now honor. Obviously, we've got the new skin line, the honors, 3 honors skin or something like that. And we've got a Mal's one, a Shen one. But what happens if you're not a Mal's player, a Shen player, a Twitch player, or a Warwick player? There may be one other skin there as well. People don't care about those skins, you know? Those are the ones that are available if you hit on a level 5. I've always said they probably need to do something better, like give you a free skin token for any champion or something, because that at least would make people care about getting a skin for a champion that they want. Obviously, in recent history, Riot's not been very good with free skins, cough hex tech chests. But yeah, so there's that. Sorry, let's get into the buffs and nerfs and all that jazz. So Miss Ashe, QW, And our damage increase, so they're buffing Ashe. So they did nerf her recently. So the ranger's focus on her Q is going up very slightly, but you have to remember she attacks very quickly and many arrows. So even though it seems like a small update, it will definitely feel it for Ashe players. They literally, from memory, took this 10% away in a recent nerf, so they're just giving it back. And then the arrow, they are buffing its base damage and also increasing the secondary damage. So if it hits 2 people, it'll, I think, only stun one of them. But then there is a bit of splash damage, I guess. That damage is going up. Okay, I mean, I don't think Ashe is necessarily terrible, but they're buffing her. I think a lot of AD carries, and I think this is what's actually happened recently, they're not weak. A lot of people will probably go, oh, AD carries are weak. They're not weak. It's just other classes, mainly tanks, have been too strong. So a tank can ignore a lot of the damage that a DPS Ashe or on average an AD carry it can put out, and a tank just walks up and just hits a Heartsteel stack and one-shots an AD carry in late game. Yeah, it's not that AD carries are weak, it's just tanks are too OP. Obviously, tank items are getting nerfed this patch, and some AD carries are getting buffed. So there could be this could be a patch that AD carries gain a lot of strength. Diana, passive damage to monsters decreased and Q and W damage increased. So they're nerfing her clear time for jungle, but they don't want to like screw lane Diana up, so they're giving compensation buffs to lane Diana. So yeah, much slower in terms of her jungle clear. That, you know, it was a 300% modifier on her passive, which is the AoE damage every third or whatever auto attack. It's now 225, so it's still going to be decent, just slower. But you are going to gain a little bit of jungle clear back by her spells having a higher base damage. But obviously, this is mainly for lane Dianas, not jungle, so fair enough. Ekko, again, a champion, in my opinion, that doesn't need to get buffed at all. But this is where Riot, unfortunately, goes purely off data sometimes. I still, by the way, to this day, recommend if you just want some cheap LP, you don't care about skill, what champion you want to play, Ekko and Kayn. Just play Ekko and Kayn jungle, you'll climb. I can nearly guarantee. And especially if Ekko's getting a buff. So he's getting 10 damage at every single rank. So it's a minor buff, but he is getting one technically. Which, you know. Elise. So again, Elise has recently jumped into support because Riot still has not addressed the elephant in the room. The reason why you're seeing so many non-supports continuously pop up in the support role. We saw Camille, Poppy, Elise. These champions are taking over the role better than actual supports, is because of the way that the game is balanced right now. Supports make too much money and everything is incentivized, that because think about how many objectives there are now on the map. There's a lot. There's grubs. There's 2 sets of grubs. There's Asakan. There's a Rift Herald. There's dragons. There's barons. There's a lot of scuttle crabs you could even count, like the ones actually in river. There's a lot of objectives, and if you have a support randomly show up at the right time for some of those objectives, your team is going to get them on average. That's the incentive, you know? And if you just play pretty passive in bot lane as an AD carry, sure, you may not have the most fun experience, but you should be okay in a 1v2. If they're playing an enchanter and your Elise is off roaming, you'll probably be okay in bot lane. Sure, you'll be a bit down in farm, but your team is gaining so much that your team is gaining overall. They need to probably do something about that, but it doesn't look like they care at all. That's, I guess, the way that Riot wants the game to be played, because that's the way the game has been played now for, what, over 6 months? You know, even before this season, support still mega roamed. That's the way that they must want League of Legends to be now. So she is getting some nerfs. Big AP nerf to her W. So won't, and a little base damage nerf. But hilariously, an AP ratio nerf actually probably hurts jungle, like actual Elise, more than support Elise. Because support Elise is about trying to be aggressive in the early game. And, you know, you're playing a support. You know you're going to fall off, basically, eventually in mid-game compared to actual laners. It's to try and build that early advantage. So the AP ratio early doesn't really impact you that much. It impacts you later into the game. And then the W, the actual auto attack, the cooldown of it is going down. So this is a buff basically to like jungle Elise, if anything. and the bonus attack speed is also going up. So again, doesn't impact support as much, but that's a buff to jungle. And then the spider form, the spiderling damage is also getting buffed. So what they're trying to hurt is support Elise just throwing a W out in lane phase constantly, which in my experience, she doesn't even do that much. It's a lot of mana to do that. So yeah, a bit odd, but sure. Mr. Gangplank. So I was waiting to play a Gangplank game. I've had the feeling of a Gangplank game. I do still to this day get people in Twitch chat going, Huz, please, can you do a Gangplank game today? I've been playing more top lane as well. I was like, I've heard he's in patch notes. I'm going to hold off. Now, the problem that I will say, don't get me wrong, a 0.5 AD ratio, AD growth increase, is good. It will give him more damage earlier into the game. But this isn't exactly what Gangplank needs, I would say. Personally, the buff that I would have liked to see Gangplank is like health, base health. That's what I think he is missing in comparison to like how he can survive in Modern Top. Because Modern Top obviously is, you know, full of tanks. That may change with this patch, with tank nerfs. But then it's very high tempo duelists. Camille, Fiora, that type of thing. Gangplank just can't deal with them. That's not in his design. So he gets outscaled hilariously by tanks pretty early on until really late game. And even tanks can kill him actually in the early game. Or he's against really high aggression duelists who again can kill him quite easily in the early game. So I would have liked to see base health increase. Now don't get me wrong, AD growth is nice. Sometimes a good defense is better offense. And AD growth will help in every facet of his game, apart from survivability. But having a bit more AD, you know, when you're on your tower, you might get dove in the next wave, or a little bit more AD can be the difference of you clearing a whole minion wave with 2 barrels, you know, and that can save your life. So it's not bad. It's just I might have wanted to see a bit of health, but there's that. Hwei. Passive damage decreased, QW damage decreased early, and WE damage decreased. Now, the one thing I will say, Hwei, as for a modern champion, is his kit overloaded? Yes. But Hwei is one of the exceptions that, yes, his kit is overloaded, because all new champions' kits are overloaded. But the reason that you don't see Hwei completely taking over every rank and every single thing and being obnoxious to play against, like, a Yone or something, is he's actually hard to play. That's the difference. When every single ability of his is a skill shot. You need to time the right ability, combo the right ability, and if you do get beat by Hwei, you don't feel like just like straight up a champion beat you. The player was involved. When a Yone kills you, the player could have been half asleep. Yone is killing you. That's the difference. But he does. I definitely need to think like he does deserve some nerfs, because think about it. The higher rating you go, where players are very good, they will use Hwei's kit, very effectively, and his kit is overloaded. So he's getting a bunch of nerfs. Nerf to his passive, nerf to his QW, which is like the long range execute kind of thing, and a nerf to his W and E, which I'm not mistaken is the auto attack buff, I think. So yeah, nerfs across the board, but I think they are warranted. Mr. Jayce. So again, obviously Jayce has been a bit of a weird pick. That pro play had a whole meta about lane swapping again. Jayce has been a pretty good answer to that. But instead of fixing the lane swap meta, Riot just nerfed Jayce, who was doing well with it. But they nerfed him a bit away from going the kind of weird tanky build. So they're giving him a compensation buff for his W to be better with attack speed. So we've got a pretty straightforward change for Jayce this patch. Last patch when we raised the attack speed cap, which obviously is now 3, we missed increasing his W to match it. So it's that simple. So he'll basically, Jayce is getting the benefit of the attack speed cap going to 3. So there's that. Kalista, W damage decreased early. Now again, it won't be a video because it was a bad game. I played with a Kalista yesterday, I think, and you know she's supposed to be incredibly strong in the early game, very powerful early game. They are nerfing her damage in the early game considerably. That's a 4% nerf at rank 1 W. My Kalista didn't get the memo that she's an early game champion. It was very weird. But yeah, so Big nerfs to her early game. It's still going to be 18% at rank 5, so it's not a nerf in late game, but she's not a late game AD carry fundamentally. She's an early game crazy bully. Practically the only AD carry that should have a chance against her in the early game is Draven, and that's basically it. So yeah, pretty strong though. So I'm fine with that early game nerf. Mr. Kog'Maw, Q damage decreased, APA ratio increased. Oh god, please don't invite AP Kog'Maw players. So Kog'Maw normally sits at a pretty high win rate due to being easy to play and always having room for counterplay. I'd also add, and again, this is a personal thing that people don't really, I would say, talk about too much. If Riot use win rates when it comes to the average win rate that people take, it's Emerald Plus, right? That if you go on a statistics website, it's by default on Emerald Plus, sometimes Emerald 2 Plus, but mainly it's Emerald Plus. Kog'Maw, in my opinion, on average, is a duo queue champion. Will that inflate his win rate a bit? Yeah, it will. Like, you don't see many solo AD Kog'Maws in bot lane. You see a duo queue Kog'Maw Milio or duo queue Kog'Maw Lulu quite a lot. It's the same with Twitch. That's quite common. So that probably makes him seem stronger than he actually is. He's strong, but there's also that kind of thing to think about. So they are nerfing the... Oh, what are they doing? So yeah. They're nerfing its early game. It was doing 90. Oh, they're nerfing it quite a bit. So this is a nerf for AD, but it will be a kind of buff for AP in the long run. So yeah, base damage is going down, and it's actually getting a bigger nerf as time goes on. But it's a 10% ability power buff. Now, it's worth knowing the Q is useful because I think it burns armor and magic resist if you hit it. So it is useful for AD, but obviously AD is getting majority of its damage, like vast majority of the damage, through just auto attacking with W, so he's not as reliant on it. When you're playing AP Kog'Maw, it is an important spell to land. The E into Q, like you throw E, you slow them into Q into an ultimate. That's the standard AP Kog'Maw combo. So that's why a 10% AP buff, eventually Kog'Maw probably won't feel it if he's going AP. So there's that. Lulu, obviously, yeah, been pretty strong right now when you combine her. Again, like I said earlier, she's a very big duo queue champion as well. Pretty strong when you combine her with the right AD carry. So they are decreasing the bonus attack speed, and also the cooldown is going up. The E damage and shield is also going down. Wow, big nerfs. Her two main things that help people, other than her ultimate, are both getting nerfed. So the bonus attack speed, ooh, that's a big nerf. 5% less bonus attack speed on cast of her W, and the cooldown is going up 1 second. That's pretty decently nerfed. And then the base damage and shield strength is also from rank 2 getting hit, eventually going to a 20 shield / damage nerf at rank 5. I think it's warranted, but damn. Some Lulu one trick's probably going to be sad about that. Mel, obviously, again, the latest overpowered, overloaded new champion. The problem that Mel has, and again, it's their own fault for designing the way that they did, she's too easy to play. You know, it's what we said about earlier with Hwei. Everything of Hwei is a skill shot, which mostly is true about Mel, but they're very different in how they do it. So her Q, before this patch, you basically couldn't miss. It was like one of the fastest abilities in the game, given that it was 1,000 range as well. It just immediately, oh, you're hitting that. And then obviously you hit a few abilities and then your ultimate isn't a skill shot. So she's much easier to play than the vast majority of mages in League of Legends. And obviously being a new champion, her damage was absolutely obscene. So now they're obviously going to try and, you know, balance her. And it is worth knowing, and this is one thing I will say, the people that do the balancing, it's not their fault that a new champion purely comes out broken. And you're like, what do you mean? They get given a champion with their kit and everything, and they're basically, they have to say, good luck balancing it. They didn't design it, right? They didn't design it. They didn't really play test it. They're the balance team. They're not the people that make the new champion. So a lot of new champions get released broken because the balance team hasn't had enough data to actually balance it. That's fundamentally why. So usually after a champion being out for 2 weeks, you usually nowadays see quite a lot of nerfs. It's the people that make the champion that are at fault, because they are basically always releasing broken champions by their very kit. That's kind of the problem. So her Q, her kind of bread and butter, is getting nerfed. But I would imagine most of these abilities are probably getting nerfed, by the way. So her cast range is going down by 50, and the projectile speed is getting nerfed by 500 speed. So decent nerfs, will still be fundamentally strong. Her W, the duration of it, the window of it actually, giving her immunity and reflecting is going down by 25%. It was 1 second. It's now 0.5 seconds. It's becoming more expensive earlier into the game with mana cost. And the damage is also going down. So actually how much damage it's reflecting onto the opponent of their own spell is also going down starting at rank 2. The E, the root duration of how much he's actually CCing people, is staying at 2.25 at rank 5, but in the early game, it is much weaker. And then the direct hit damage as compensation is a tiny little buff by base AD and a 10% AP ratio. But obviously, it doesn't do a lot of damage. It's just a root. And then the ultimate, damage per overwhelm stack. So, when you put things on targets, it does take quite a lot of stacks to be built to do decent damage. That is technically getting a 1% AP ratio buff. But obviously, the big nerf is that and that. These are the two abilities that are her bread and butter. That's just a root. So yeah, fundamentally, she's getting nerfed quite hard, but I think that's probably okay. Nautilus. You don't see much Nautilus. Nautilus is kind of, how do I say, he's been kind of put to the side. If you want a high damage, tanky engaging support, you play Rel, or hell, you even play Elise. So they're giving him more damage, because tanks need damage, apparently. So yeah, they're 15 damage extra per everything. Not bad, but yeah, damn. Mr. Sion, base armor and health regeneration increased. Sion's not the best state at the moment. I see the problem that you've got with Sion. It's similar to what I said earlier about duo Q champs. Like, some champions are fundamentally more duo Q champs than others. The problem that Sion's got is he's attached to a very popular streamer. I like him. We all like the Bows of FS. He seems like a lovely chap. But fundamentally, people have tried now for a few years to copy his playstyle, and I definitely think that will be fundamentally making Sion look a lot weaker than he actually is. I've played a few games of Sion, and I felt really powerful playing him. But when you have the average Emerald player that hasn't got good game sense, but they've watched 2 Bows videos and go, I'm going to give that a go, it's definitely going to, when Riot now balance a lot when it comes to data, it's definitely going to hurt Sion's data. Like 100% it's going to hurt his data. So that's where you got to be a little bit careful. So where I actually don't think he's very weak, these are pretty good buffs. 4 base armor increase at level 1 and 1.5 more health regen, which is pretty damn good. Yee. That's pretty strong. Mr. Teemo Jungle has definitely gotten weaker since we went all Noxus. And recent nerfs to his E didn't do him any favours there, since he's already in a good spot in his other positions. We're giving a very specific jungle buff. So this is basically for Broxer. His E is just a monster damage increase. So it's literally just helping his monster jungle clear. So there's that. Warwick, again, I've obviously been banning Warwick now, and it's been actually quite effective. I've actually faced a few players that are Warwick one-tricks and have fed their absolute minds off when they haven't been given Warwick. The problem that Warwick's got is that perfect combination of, and again, not meaning to offend, 0 skill to play and very powerful. It's a deadly combo, right? It doesn't take, everybody can play it. You just have to commit to playing it, and not everybody wants to, but some people don't care. They just go top lane, they take barrier, they literally can't lose 1v1s. The only way to really beat them is you have a jungler come top. And even that's a risk, because with Warwick's regen, I've seen Warwick's 2v1 quite often. So he's pretty anti-fun, unfortunately. So the way that they're trying to nerf him is by hitting his mana cost. So his actual strength, him standing still and auto-attacking, hasn't been affected at all. So he'll still be annoying. But basically, they're trying to hurt his mana cost that he can't just constantly Q and get basically his full health back pretty damn quick. Because he's actually got quite a short mana pool. Now, the thing is, this doesn't hurt his jungle. It hurts just top. Why? Because jungle gets so much sustain, health, and mana that he'll be fine with his mana when it comes to jungling. This is just a top lane nerf. I don't think it's enough. I would really like them to heavy nerf it, really put people off playing it for 1 or 2 patches, and then give it a little bit of a buff. So the people that are dedicated to playing Warwick, they can play him again. But basically, I think what's happened, Warwick has become a more default pick for even non-Warwick players because of how easy he is and how powerful he is. If you gave him a big nerf, and by the way, they've done this before, if you give him a big nerf, it'll kind of like shake off those players. It'll only leave the people that actually want to play him, give him a little bit of a compensation buff after 1 or 2 patches, and people probably won't go back to him that didn't really care about him in the first place. They've done this with a Kali, for example, and they've done it with a few champions, and it has worked quite well. I'd like that to happen to him, but yeah. Mr. Yasuo. Passive crit damage reduction removed. Oh. Yasuo hasn't been able to find his stride recently, so we're here to put some wind behind his metaphorical sails this patch. We'd like it if they would... we'd like it if Yasuo players were more willing to buy crit early, because obviously they're all just rushing Blade of the Ruined King. So we're softening his crit damage modifier from way back when base crit was 200%. Oh. There you go. He's not getting any damage reduction early. He just can build crit straight away. Fair enough. They'll probably still just buy Blade of the Ruined King. Abyssal Mask is getting a magic resist nerf. Hasn't, it's a strong item, but hasn't been one of the broken items. So fair enough. Fumble Winter. The shield, the Everlasting Shield, was 100 to 180 based on your level with 4.5% of your current mana as well. It's now only 100. So it's basically working out to be 30% less shielding. That's a pretty big nerf. Heartsteel. Again, Clink Clink. Very satisfying item. But the Colossal Consumption Max Health is 10% of damage. It's now 8% of damage. So yeah, while very popular and the current poster child of frustrating tank items, I'd say Unending Despair might be more, but anyway. We don't believe Heartsteel is actually quite as powerful as its reputation may suggest. I mean, it's powerful, but it's more the frustrating angle. When you're against it and you're not a Heartsteel champion, hearing that clink is actually really tilting. Because every time you hear that clink, the enemy's getting stronger. Every time. That's the annoying part about it, is I'm letting them get a clink on me when I'm trading with them. They're gaining more health, which is giving it more damage. That's frustrating, right? So, that said, the high-end snowball cases for this item can get out of hand. So we're specifically going after the best case scenarios where it gains over 1,000 bonus HP and feeds into all other HP scaling, which is true. So they're hitting it by 2%, but it comes from the damage element. That's okay, but it's still going to be strong, definitely. Infinity Edge is getting a buff. It's going to be a bit cheaper. But with it being cheaper, you can get it earlier. They are nerfing the AD. It's worth knowing it is a powerful item. There is a mixture of some AD carries are buying crit, some are buying on hit. So I guess they just want it to be an option earlier into the game, even by 2 minutes. It can make a difference. So there's that. Merc Treads is getting a buff. They're making it cheaper, and I presume... Oh no, there's not the same one. So they're making Merc Treads cheaper. Okay. And then Plated Steel Caps. Damage reduction from auto attacks was 12%. It's now 10%. So this is what I was talking about earlier, that the AD carry class has really struggled killing tanks, because all tanks buy plated steel caps practically, and they were taking 12% less damage from auto attacks, which is most of AD carry's damage. So a 2% damage reduction decrease will help AD carries actually be able to kill people with plated steel caps better. The roaming boot, the flat movement speed was 35, is now 40, so this is technically a buff. And this is the thing, they're the worst performing boots in the game for most players. They should be. Like, they flat out should be, and that's okay. Why? The other boots have a very clear It's giving you MR and less CC. It's giving you less, damage from auto attacks and armor. It's giving you attack speed. These boots are the high risk, high reward boot. You get to base all the time. You get to be quicker around the map. It's a roaming playstyle boot. So of course it should be the worst performing boot because it's a high risk playstyle. The other boots are pretty standard in everything. These are the high risk exception. So of course they should be the worst performing boot. That's a weird methodology to why they're buffing it because of what it is actually supposed to be. Odd. Unending Despair. I'll say Unending Despair was the strongest tank item in the game before season start. I think it probably still is. This item, I would say, is still it's stronger than Heartsteel, but Heartsteel has the annoying clink that's getting people tilted. This is insanely strong. It's worth knowing when they're combined, and that's the issue. When you combine all these tank items, that's the recipe for overpowered. It's when you have Heartsteel, Unending Despair, one other tank item, you're doing a lot of damage, and you're taking very little. That's the combo. But this is going from Anguish, which was 8 to 15 damage based on your level plus 3% bonus health. It's now just 3% bonus health. And they're saying this is a 10 to 15% damage to, nerf to the item's damage. So there's a very clear thing it's worth mentioning, and that's exactly what we've been asking for. Tanks can be tanky. No one minds a tanky tank. That's their job. People have hated a tanky tank walking up to you and killing you, and you can't do anything about it. There's no, I'm going to be skillful and outplay this. They just walk up to you, you can't kill them, and they go bang and you're dead. That's not fun. It's fun for the person playing tank because you feel like a god. It's not fun for anybody else. So the nerfs are about damage. And this is the thing. Tank players, and hell, even Juggernaut players, shouldn't be salty about this because they're doing damage. They'll still do damage, but their damage has been obscene. So I think overall this is good. And I will say they'll still do a lot of damage, by the way, like a lot. So yeah. Right, system change. Adakan. So in this patch, we've adjusted Adakan's spawn rules to better reflect how bloody a game feels with what form he takes. This also includes accounting for differences between a solo queue match and professional match. Oh, wait, what? Early lane trading. Pro play features more aggressive early lane trading, and champions simply have less health early. Anyways, for smaller amounts of damage represent greater bloodiness. Therefore, we are increasing the impact of early game PvP damage on bloodiness score to a greater degree. This is the thing, right? So pro play has less kills in the early game than solo queue, but there's more trading going on. In solo queue, people just die here, there, and everywhere in an all-in kind of play. In pro play, because they're actually pretty good at the game, they do constant trade, and a lot of people stay around in lane pretty low health, but pros won't commit to going for the absolute all-in the early game as a high-risk play to go for a kill. That's, I think, what they're saying here. So where it was basically all about kills, pretty much, mostly about kills, they're trying to tinker with it. It's not just about kills, it's also about how much trading is actually going on. So early PvP generates double the points, decreasing down to the normal amount over the 14 minutes. And then diminishing kill score. Functionally, so long as enough kills happen, the game feels bloody and lively. This means that the first few kills are significant more than subsequent ones. So basically, early kills will make which Adakan is happening more apparent, I guess. Okay. Clash, by the way. Okay, so yeah, the Clash schedule, I will say, it has made me quite sad. I like Clash, but you can't always make it. If it's a bad weekend for you, oh, I'm going to miss this month's Clash. It's even more kind of bad now because it's every 2 months. So if you have a bad weekend and you can't make a Clash, you're then having to wait 2 months. That's rough. So they're starting as well the first Clash with an all random Earth Clash, not a proper Summoner's Rift. Oh my god. There's only 3 actual clashes this year. Look. So that's not a real clash. That's not a real clash. That's not a real clash. This is a standard clash. That is a standard clash. That is a standard clash. There are only 3 real clashes this year. That's insane. That's literally insane. Oh, I do not like that. And again, Riot's, by the way, excuse of why this has happened is the team that is working on True Skill 2.0, which is the potential new way that LP is going to change. They were the Clash team. But my argument is the Clash system already exists. There's not much you need to do about it. You just have to schedule it and have maybe a couple people on deck for maintenance if a server has an issue. So why are we now going to only one every 2 months and realistically one every, like, well, 2 actual clashes are back to back, you know, in April and then June, and then the other one's in October. That's mental to me. I like Clash, and that's not a good change. We're getting updated rewards because obviously there's a lot less of them happening, so you can't earn as many rewards if it was the same. ARAM updates, Swift Play updates, Mythic Shop is obviously changing, bug fixes, and there we go. That is it. Bit of a weird patch, I will say. Yeah, a bit of an odd one. I'm happy that the tank nerfs are here. I still think tanks are going to be stronger than the average class, I will say. But hopefully it'll maybe mix up the game a little bit. Hopefully. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you guys did enjoy, I will obviously get this video out in the next few hours. So if you appreciate me recording it and getting it up, obviously it's worth mentioning. And yeah, I should have probably said this at the beginning. This patch note was delayed 1 day. Weirdly, out of the first 4 patches of this season, 3 of them have been on a, well, patch notes on a Wednesday and the patch on a Thursday. In the schedule of patch notes for the rest of the year, it should be standard that the patch note comes out on Tuesday and the patch comes on Wednesday. Apparently for the rest of the year, it should now be standard. It was just front loaded in it always happens when it comes to American holidays. Basically, if there's usually an American holiday on a Monday, they delay the patch by 1 day backwards. But apparently, I guess for the rest of the year, American holidays aren't aligned with patch weeks, so they're all standard. Anyway, that's gonna be it. Do throw a like on it if you liked it. Let me know what you think. Is there any champions you think are missing from nerfs or buffs? Let me know. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace.
Welcome to the Rift, where the legends play. It's us and games bringing skill every day. From tips to tricks and play so fine. You'll learn the game and have a good time. Thanks for watching, you're the real MVP. Hit that like and sub, join the family tree. Like, comment, and subscribe. Keep the Huzzy dream alive. Tune in on Twitch, it's the place to